film opens with the somber narration of a young woman reading poetry, describing a perfect world full of green trees and lush meadows. But the scene that appears is completely the opposite, a freezing night in the Wyoming wilderness, near the Wind River Indian Reservation. Against the backdrop of white snow, a Native American girl runs barefoot in despair, crying. The next day, the story introduces Corey Lambert, a quiet and solitary man who works as a wildlife tracker for the Fish and Game Department. Dressed in white camouflage, he silently follows the tracks of a wolf through the cold snow. Later, Corey goes to the town of Lander to pick up his son, Casey, from his ex-wife, a Native woman. Although they remain cordial, both clearly show signs of worry and an overprotective attitude toward their son. Corey drove Casey to the Native American reservation so the boy could stay with his grandparents while his mother was away. Casey's grandfather mentioned that a predator had just killed a bull on the farm. Based on the tracks left behind, Corey realized it was a lioness with her 2 cubs. This showed that Corey was very skilled at tracking. While following the lion's trail, he discovered a streak of blood and footprints in the snow that led to the body of a young girl with a wound on her forehead and frostbitten feet. The girl was the same one who appeared at the beginning of the film. Corey immediately notified the tribal police in the reservation, and they quickly reported the case to the FBI. Corey waited with the FBI and Ben, the sheriff of the reservation, where only 6 officers were responsible for the entire vast area. Agent Jane Banner arrived in the middle of the blizzard, looking quite frail for such a harsh environment and clearly needing warmer clothing to withstand the cold. Casey's grandmother immediately gave her some warm clothes that had belonged to her late granddaughter. Now, we know that Corey has a daughter close in age to the girl who died. He and the others traveled by snowmobile to the location where the body was found. Corey confirmed that the victim was 18-year-old Natalie Hansen. During the examination, Jane noticed blood in the genital area and began to suspect that this was a homicide. She asked Corey about the nearest place where Natalie might have fled. He mentioned an abandoned house and a nearby drilling rig. Then, Corey studied the footprints in the snow and reconstructed what had happened. He noticed that the front of the footprint sank deeper, indicating that Natalie had truly run away in a panic. He explained that the -20°C temperature that night caused her lungs to rupture, making her collapse and cough up blood, yet she kept running until she was completely exhausted. The agent found the explanation reasonable and, recognizing Corey's skills, asked him to assist with the investigation. When they returned to town, they went to the medical examiner's office and received medical confirmation supporting Corey's account. The medical examiner reported that Natalie had been sexually assaulted by a group of unidentified individuals. Jane felt responsible for uncovering the truth, but Natalie's death was not considered a homicide, so she could not request an FBI team to investigate. In fact, she could even be called back since this case exceeded the FBI's jurisdiction. Ben and Corey went with Jane to Natalie's parents' house, Martin and Annie. There, they learned that Natalie had a boyfriend, but her father didn't even know his name. Jane was angry at Martin's indifference toward his daughter and scolded him, which left him both hurt and angry. When they saw Natalie's mother, they got no useful information because she was too distraught and had been harming herself. On the other hand, Corey is one of Martin's closest friends. He shares with Martin his own experience of losing a child, helping him understand that only by confronting pain can a person overcome trauma. Knowing that Corey is involved in the investigation, Martin lights a cigarette and asks him for revenge, even though it seems that Corey harbors the same purpose himself. To search for more clues, Corey, Jane, and Ben went to the house closest to the scene, a dilapidated home belonging to Sam Littlefeather, a habitual drug addict who often stayed there. Sam exhaled smoke, causing Jane and Ben to choke and pass out. Amid the chaos, 2 other addicts tried to escape through the back door, but Corey quickly intercepted them and knocked them out with a shovel. Jane struggled to catch her breath and staggered after Sam around the house in a daze. Sam suddenly appeared and fired his gun, but missed her. Jane returned fire, hitting Sam multiple times and killing him on the spot. Later, it was discovered that one of the men in the house was Chip Henson, Natalie's brother. Upon learning that his sister was dead, he broke down in tears. The man's vague words made Jane realize that Natalie's boyfriend was a white man from out of town. Meanwhile, Corey noticed ski trail tracks leading up the hill from the house. Since Natalie's body had been found on the other side of the hill, he and Jane decided to follow the trail. As they climbed, they discovered another corpse partially buried in the snow. It was the body of a man that had been picked apart by a hawk. When they returned to the brothel, the kids remained silent and refused to reveal any information. They would rather go to prison than continue living in the sanctuary. Everything only changed when Corey spoke with Chip, Natalie's older brother, whom he had known since childhood. Chip blamed the harsh environment for putting him and his sister in this situation. However, his sister argued that Chip could have left to pursue a better life, such as attending college or joining the military, instead of blaming their circumstances. When Chip blamed Corey for not being able to protect his daughter, the atmosphere between them became tense, and Corey struck him. Afterwards, Chip revealed that Natalie's boyfriend was Matt, a security guard at the training area, who was almost the same age as Corey. Corey relayed this information to Ben, and he was invited to go with them to the training grounds the next day. However, Corey declined, indicating that he already had his own plan. Later, Jane went to Corey's house and informed him that the victim's identity was Matt Rayburn, a security guard at the training area. This confirmed that the body was indeed Natalie's boyfriend, the one Chip had mentioned earlier. Jane wondered why Corey was helping her, and gradually began to understand after seeing a photo of his daughter. Corey shared the tragic story of his daughter Emily, who had gone through a similar ordeal as Natalie 3 years earlier, when she was only 16. At that time, Corey was a salesman and had only wanted a night alone with his wife at a hotel, but soon after, Emily's best friend Natalie reported that Emily had gone missing. Corey ended the story by revealing that his daughter had been attacked to death by a wolf. He had tried to suppress his grief for 3 years, but eventually, he could no longer bear it and broke down. Now, everyone understood the reason his marriage had fallen apart. That tragedy was likely the main cause of the separation. He became a hunter, either to track the wild beasts that had attacked his daughter or to hunt down those who might have killed her. Jane felt overwhelmed by the horrifying events in the area and asked to use the restroom. While there, she happened to come across a poem by Emily, showing that the girl had a talent for writing. The next day, Corey returned to the hill to continue investigating Matt's murder, while Jane and Ben skied to the oil drilling camp along with 4 deputy officers. The head of security welcomed them and explained that Matt had gone missing a few days earlier after an argument with his girlfriend. Jane noticed that he and several other employees had bruises on their faces. Although they explained that the injury was caused by hitting a tree while skiing, Jane remained suspicious. On the way to Matt's ski lift house, she tricked the guards to test their reactions. She said that Natalie was still alive and had reported her boyfriend missing. The main security guard looked surprised and said that it was impossible because he had heard on the radio that they had found her body. Jane grew even more suspicious, emphasizing that the identity of the body had never been mentioned on the radio. Meanwhile, a deputy noticed that the security guards were surrounding them. He panicked, and a struggle broke out as everyone drew their weapons. Thanks to her higher-ranking FBI position, Jane took control of the situation and helped everyone calm down. Afterwards, she walked to the mobile home and knocked on the door. At that moment, the scene shifted back to Natalie's final night, when Matt opened the door and met her. After the hug and kiss, the scene shifts to them discussing future plans in bed. While they're engrossed in conversation, Matt's drunken colleagues start pulling the curtains near the sled. Natalie quickly pulls them back, but a guy named Pete, who seems drunk, still tugs at the curtains and teases them. He started joking around and tried to peek under the blanket, which made Matt angry. Matt jumped out of bed and pushed him away, but Pete still wouldn't back down. Matt then jumped on Pete to join in the roughhousing. Meanwhile, a man insulted Natalie with racist remarks, prompting her to slap him. Pete took advantage of the situation and pulled down Natalie's pants. After Matt landed a few hits on Pete, tensions escalated and a fight broke out between them. Natalie tried to help her boyfriend, but both of them were struck hard on the head and lost consciousness. When Natalie came to, she realized Pete was assaulting her. After waking up, Matt lunged at Pete again, but in the end he was beaten by everyone. Natalie ran away, realizing she couldn't help her boyfriend, and in an effort to save herself, she was killed. In the present, Jane is still banging on the door, announcing that she is with the FBI. On the mountain, Corey discovers snowmobile tracks leading from the drilling site to where Matt's body was found, proving that the guards had moved his body to mislead the investigation, with the snowmobile following the trail all the way to Sam's house. He tried to warn Ben about the guards. But just as Jane was about to leave the door, a loud explosion rang out, and she was shot in the chest. The guards immediately opened fire on the tribal police officers. A fierce gunfight erupted, but in the end, the guards gained the upper hand and killed all the officers.
Who is it?
Jane was injured in the collision, but her armor saved her life. As she tried to reload, the lead guard snatched her gun. Just before he could fire, a bullet unexpectedly struck him. In fact, Corey was the shooter hidden in the snow. When the other guards searched for Corey, he fired at them without mercy. Corey shot at the sled and hit it again, but Pete managed to escape through the window and run up the mountain. After giving Jane first aid,
Rounds went through here. That's tight.
Corey went up the hill to track Pete. Pete heard the snowmobile engine and panicked, searching for the source of the sound. When Pete turned around, Corey fired his rifle, knocking him unconscious. When he woke up, he found himself walking barefoot on the mountaintop, and his toes had begun to freeze. Corey promised to give him a second chance if he admitted to everything he had done. Pete confessed to killing Matt and sleeping with Natalie. Corey kept his promise, letting Pete go, and remarked that Natalie had run 6 miles barefoot in the snow, while he wasn't sure he could even run 600 feet. Pete chased after Corey, but the sub-zero cold severely damaged his lungs. He collapsed to the ground, wheezing, and died instantly. Later, Corey appeared at the hospital where Jane felt fortunate to be alive, while Corey emphasized that luck doesn't exist in the preserve. He realized that in this situation, the survivors are those with spirit and strength, while the weak give up. Jane burst into tears as she recalled Natalie running 6 miles in the freezing cold to save her life. Later, Corey visited Martin and found him sitting with a gloomy expression, as if preparing to end his own life. To comfort Martin, Corey recounted the people responsible for Natalie's death and how they were punished, especially the attacker who caused her death. Martin was moved and asked his friend to stay for a while to share in the grief. Losing a daughter in such a horrific way had completely changed the way they understood pain. One image can make a person feel despair, while another can inspire them to become stronger. In the end, both weakness and strength are present before our eyes, just like how we face challenges in everyday life. We have to choose who we want to become. Thank you for watching the video. Be sure to subscribe to the channel to see more similar content and share your thoughts about the film.